Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to do a blind hem, and it's basically a type of slip stitch used to make a hidden inconspicuous hem or a hidden hem. So for example, if I had a pant or a sleeve and this was the back side of my fabric, I already folded it up and pressed it like that, but say I wanted to hold this new hem length or whatever, then I would come back here and you don't want any of this thread stitching to show, then I would use a blind stitch. So I would start with the back of my fabric here, or the back of my garment, and I went ahead and already folded it once and folded it again so I could cover the raw edge of my fabric here. And this width from the fold to this fold is 3/4, and that's just a hem that I decided to do. So just to let you know, for this 3/4 inch hem, I'm basically using a 2-inch seam allowance here. So you can see from this faint chalk line, I don't know if you can see it, but from here, folding it up to here, folding it up to here, when I unfold it, it's 2 inches. Basically, this is a 2-inch ruler to reference. So depending on what hem you have, you always have to remember that you have to fold it to cover your raw edge, and then you have to fold it again. So you have to have 2 folds. I have my thread here, which is a contrast thread, so I could just show you how you're going to be stitching this blind hem. And then I already made a knot here. So what I'm going to do is, I mentioned how I have 2 folds. This first fold I have, I'm going to try to go in between these 2 fabrics here, the raw edge side and then the folded side with the 2 creases. I'm just going to put my needle right in between those 2 fabrics and into that crease of that tunnel. And I'm going to be referencing it as a tunnel. I'm going to pull my thread all the way through so I could hide my knot in that tunnel. If I didn't have like this raw edge here, what I would do is I would probably just start here. I'll show you where I would start if I didn't have access to that tunnel. So I just clipped it off. I'm going to create a knot by looping around my finger, rolling it with my thumb, and pinching it with my middle finger, and then pulling it all the way through, and then pulling both ends of the thread to get a good knot. And this is pretty small knot, so I'm just going to do it again so I could get another one in there. There it goes. That's a good knot. It's a pretty good thick knot. But when I say good knot, is I want it to be thick enough that it won't go through in between the weaves of the fibers, the threads of the fabric. So say I didn't have access to this tunnel right here, then what I would do, let me take this out, is I would just start at this end, the back of my seam allowance here, and still pull that thread right on that crease line. Pull that needle right on that crease line, excuse me. So if I don't have access to this in between, then at least I have access right here. And it'll be hidden. Okay? So that's how I'm going to start. That's my starting point. And I just want to mention, I am working with a small swatch, but if I was working with a larger hem and a circumference, then I would go ahead and start pinning them. Pinning my hem creases, the folds, so I can hold it in place. So I'm just going to proactively do that for this tutorial. And like I mentioned, I started at the back here and I went into the crease. And now what I'm going to do is on the front side of the garment, this would be the front side, this would be the back. I'm just going to prick one thread, 1 or 2 threads of that front side of the fabric and pull it through. And then once I have those 2 or 3 sides, you can't even see that stitch. But then I'm gonna go into that crease and then channel my needle into the tunnel of that crease and then go 1/4 inch and pull it through, and then catch 2 or 3 threads, 1 to 2 threads. Let me move this so you guys can see better. 1 to 2 threads of the front side of the garment. So I don't know if you can see this, but there is a small little needle indication right there. That's the 1 or 2 threads that I got, and I'm just gonna pull it through. And then you can actually see it because I did 2 threads here on purpose so you guys can see it. But the first one I literally did 1 and you can't even see it. And imagine if you had a matching thread color like this navy, then you really wouldn't see that prick mark. You'll just see like a small little prick marks here and there, but you wouldn't see this thread. It would be hidden. So I'm gonna go back, and it's the same steps from where I started. Going back into that crease to channel my needle into the tunnel, and I'm gonna do 1/4 inch. I usually like to do 1/4 inch on blind hems because I don't want it too big that it doesn't hold the hem, and I don't want it too small that it's gonna take forever basically. So I like to just do 1/4 inch for me. I'm just gonna, right now I already went to that channel on the back side of my fabric, and now I'm picking up 1 to 2 threads on the front side of my fabric and then going back into that channel there and picking 1 or 2 threads here. So that's how you're going to do it. And another easy way for me to do it is once I go to that crease, channel my needle in between that tunnel, I usually don't pull it through all the way. You see how that point of the needle sticking out? I like to just go ahead and pick up 1 or 2 threads at that point of the front of my fabric and then keep on going. So I do that usually. That would be 1 stitch. So 1 stitch for me would be start at the crease, channel my thread in between that tunnel of that crease, and then as I pull out my needle, I'm going to pick up 1 to 2 threads from the front side. And then I keep on going like that. And this stitch is going to take a while because you have to be cautious to pick up 1 to 2 threads from that front side of that fabric. If you do more, then it's going to show and it's not going to be a blind hem anymore. So it's okay if it takes time. I am taking my time here as I'm showing you guys. The more practice you get, the faster you'll get. And I've had a lot of practice on this, and I still takes me a little bit of time. So don't be discouraged if this takes you a lot longer than you expected. I'm at my pin. I'm just going to pull it out. So that pin right there is going to help you hold your folds so you have an even hem width. Like I mentioned, it's 3/4 here, so I have an even 3/4 hem all throughout. That's what that pin's there for. And you can also, don't have to pull out your thread all the way. You could always go through a few of these, like I'm doing right now, a few of these stitches. And then once you get at a good place here, like 2 or 3 stitches, you could always pull your thread then. And I'm just going to pull it a little bit more taut so I can get that there. can see the front side here. And I think I only have to do one more. And then I'm going to show you how I would finish it. So I picked 1 to 2 threads here, and I would finish it by going back to that crease here, and then I would just start, I would go to this crease right here, and then I'm going to go to the back side here. I'm just going to pull it through. Same concept as my front. I want to hide that knot, so I'm just going to hide it like that. And let me just reiterate what I'm doing. I put my needle right against that thread and I looped it 1, 2, 3. I'm pinching it to create a knot like so. And then what I like to do is to make sure that knot just stays under there is I pull the thread this way. I pull it under in between those creases by creating another stitch, and then I do 1, 2, 3 loops to create another knot. And then with that, I'll yank it a little bit, and right after that knot, I'll just clip it. So now I have a knot with my thread and needle for my next project. And then this right here is a blind stitch. So you can see here how I have small little prick marks in between, and it's pretty evenly spaced. And the white contrast thread is showing a little bit, but that's because I picked up more than one thread at that point. But just remember that if it was the same matching navy thread, then this would just look like as if it's a part of the fabric weave. And that's the whole point of a blind hem. And there you have it.